weeks to get you familiar with how to deal with truth, and when it comes to the Charismatic Movement, the Pentecostals. And we said that the definition of a charismatic is a broad term encompassing millions of people and thousands of denominations, and it's very hard to determine just what they all believe. If you were to ask any Baptist preacher in this community what they believe, and you'll say, really? If you say, and they well differently. So the charismatic movement generally is people who, as a general rule, believe that the gifts in the New Testament are still active. And I remember preaching through 1 Corinthians and preaching through that book, and there are many Baptists that believe that in different ways, in different forms, and how you present it. But the question that we want to ask is the position that the Pentecostals hold. Is it in line with the New Testament? Can they say that what they do in the New Testament is what they're doing now? Now, most of the time they say not. We looked last time on prophecy. First, we discussed that a true prophet must be doctrinally orthodox. First, a true prophet must be doctrinally orthodox. Now that means that they are doctrinally correct in how they present themselves. It's not their made-up thought, but what they believe. A self-proclaimed prophet who deceives people by leading them into a theological era is a false prophet. And we looked at Deuteronomy chapter 13, verses 1 through 5. And secondly, we said that a true prophet must have moral integrity. Moral integrity. And I think that goes across the board anyway. I can preach truth. I actually could preach truth and be living in sin. I know a preacher that for years had a mistress. And I discovered lately that he built her a house just 2 blocks from his own house. And he pastored a great big church, and his wife, even to this day, defends him. I'm afraid if I build a house for my mistress, my wife would shoot her and me both. I mean, she's not going to stand by your man. Have you ever noticed that all country singers go to heaven? You know, Stand By Your Man, George Jones. They had a memorial service for him, and boy, they put him in heaven, and he was one of the biggest alcoholic, sin, cursing, 4-time married individual. Is she having trouble back there?
What?
Is she doing? Are you doing okay back there? You don't read the notes back there, okay? And but anyway, he died in the last couple of months, and all country singers go to heaven as a false doctrine. Thirdly, a true prophet must demonstrate predictive accuracy. Predictive accuracy. Or to put it in the negative, if someone claims to speak prophetic revelation from God about the future or about some other secret thing, but then that predictive does not come to pass or prove to be false, we can safely conclude that person to be a false prophet. Once again, let's look at the scriptures to see this principle, and that is found in Deuteronomy chapter 18. Deuteronomy chapter 18. Deuteronomy chapter 18. We're looking at verse 20. But the prophet which shall presume to speak a word in my name, which I have not commanded him to speak, or that shall speak in the name of other gods, even the prophet shall die. And if thou say in thine heart, how shall we know the word which the Lord hath not spoken? Here's one way you can discover how to find out if the Lord has not spoken. It will not come to pass.
That's right.
If it doesn't come to pass, you know that it has not been spoken by God. And he's a false prophet. Deuteronomy chapter 20, verses 18 and 22 says, it does, when a prophet speaketh in the name of the Lord, if the thing follows not nor comes to pass, that is the thing which the Lord hath not spoken, but the prophet hath spoken it presumptuously, thou shalt not be afraid of him. Keep these verses in mind. Highlight them, if you may. And if someone says, I have a word of prophecy from the Lord, then all you need to do is, I will refer to you in Deuteronomy chapter 18, verses 20 through verse 22. Show them Scripture. Don't say, well, you're an idiot, Bill. You know, don't just point Scripture to them. You say, that's wonderful, sir. I'm glad to hear that the Lord has spoken to you. That is great. Here's what I want you to do. Here's how I'm going to affirm is I'm going to write it down. What is the prophecy? What is the prophecy? And they'll tell you what the prophecy is. Do they need... What is the prophecy? And write it down. Give me the word that you have from the Lord. Write it down, okay? And then you say, I want it to be affirmed. If it's from the devil or if it's from the Lord, then I'm going to give, these are the verses I'm going to show you. Point it out to them. Don't argue with them, just do that. Well, that is just about as clear as it's possible. How can we know if a prophet is really speaking for the Lord, or if the prophet is presumptuously and false? Now, but I want to focus on the third requirement of biblical prophecy, especially on the charismatic movement, especially them that is represented by TBN and mainstream charismatic media. Not all of them, but mainstream. We quickly see that the modern charismatic version of prophecy fails to meet these three biblical criteria. We quickly see the broader charismatic movement is hardly known for its doctrinal orthodoxy. Are you lost, sir?
Yes.
Okay. He thought he was on the golf course and ended up at Rivers Grove Baptist Church. How'd that happen? By their own admission, proponents of modern gift of prophecy readily acknowledges that modern prophecies are often inaccurate and full of errors. if you say to a person who says to you, my pastor preaches prophecy, and all you need to do is ask him this: how often is he correct? How often is he correct? That's all you need to say. And they probably will say, well, I don't know that he's always correct. Well, give me a percentage. Well, probably it's at least 50%, and I may be stretching it. Okay. Now, where did he get the prophecy from? Well, he says he got him from the Lord. Okay. What about the 50% of the prophecies that did not come true? Did the Lord give it to him, or was he lying to him? Oh. So put it back in his court. Well, we don't teach that all of our prophecies that will turn out. So you're saying that so then some of the things that your pastor says isn't coming from the Lord, it's just him thinking that maybe he would like for that to happen. I prophesied it yesterday that the Alabama was going to beat LSU by 30 points. I was right. I made Bill Reinhardt bad. It wasn't quite. They scored 30 points or more. So I didn't get that from the Lord. The Lord don't care anything about football. Wish he did. Then the Bengals would win all the time. Okay. But I want to this third requirement of biblical prophecy is accuracy. Let me give you some examples from some charismatic themselves, and I want to share some of these later, and I will later. Continuous. The next page. You have that page? The next page. Continuous. The term continuous is similar to the term charismatic in that it refers to a belief in the continuation of the miraculous and revelatory gifts of the New Testament. These continuous assert that things like the gift of prophecy, the gift of tongues, the gift of healing still function in the church today. The term continuous is sometimes used to deviate theologically conservative charismatics from those in the broader charismatic movement. A Christian leader like John Piper, Wayne Grudem, and Sam Storm have some fault, and you cannot beat theologically John Piper, Wayne Grudem, and Sam Storm. They are terrific, but they also have a sense of believing in tongues as well, and they don't believe it's all stuff. And it is important to note that while we do not agree with our position regarding the charismatic gifts, we have much to appreciate about these men, and a lot of my sermons notes come from John Piper. I readily admit that what I preach is much of what someone else has already preached. You haven't heard them. You haven't heard them, so why not preach them? There you go. That's what I say.